Good morning, all, and welcome to the September 1st Reparations Committee meeting. Hello, Councilmember Reed. We have a quorum now, and we were going to go ahead and get started with non-action items. Glad you're here. So with the quorum, we will go into our meeting and cover everything that is on our agenda. Item 2A is the approval of the July 13th, 2022 Reparations Committee meeting minutes. Is there a motion to approve?
I move approval.
Is there any discussion? No discussion? Okay, motion is moved and seconded, passes.
All those in favor? Aye.
Sorry. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Perfect. Okay.
I was going to say I'll move introduction of research on Evanston reparations.
Okay, is there a second?
Yes, I'll second.
Perfect. We have a guest that's with us today, Professor Al Tillery from Northwestern University. If you could join us here. Professor Tillery is going to begin the process of research, which is going to be helpful in us strengthening our work, continuing to hear more from community, and improve outcomes, which is our goal here in our reparations work. And so we put you early on the agenda because we're sure you have plenty of things that you have to do. Thank you for joining us. If you could just let us know what we should expect in the community and a little bit about your research.
Sure, thank you, Robin. It's good to be here with you. So what you should expect is that we will be working in collaboration with community partners, including the city, to try to provide a comprehensive study of the way in which the reparations program is being viewed by our residents. And so we are going to be designing a citywide survey in collaboration with civic leaders and government leaders and academics at Northwestern. And we're going to be deploying the survey over the fall months, October, November, into the winter. And we'll be working in collaboration. We're not just trying to extract data from the city. We're going to be trying to figure out what's working well, what we may need to devote some time to as areas of growth. We'll be embargoing results so that we can share them with the community and brief the community in public about what we're finding. And you know, I'm very grateful to the Sebring Lewis Foundation for providing Northwestern with a grant so that we could do this program. And my colleagues and I are very excited to collaborate with everyone. And we're undertaking this project really at the behest of civic leaders because we want to make sure that Evanston has high quality data and data from somewhat trusted sources. You can imagine there are a cadre of academics from all over the country that are approaching Evanston to do surveys about our reparations program. And so it's good that we have a kind of local voice where there will be community input into the project to sort of tell our account. And so that's why the Northwestern side is really interested in partnering.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the committee?
Yes, thank you for your participation. What is the minimum number that will make this a valid statistic? How many surveys do you plan to distribute and to collect to get a reasonable decision on making policy from our committee here?
Well, so in a random designed, random sample survey, you may read some of these media surveys that have, they claim to have national representation, and they've surveyed anywhere from between 350 to 500 persons, right? And so we're much smaller than the nation, 75,000 residents. We're hoping to be able to have a field methodology whereby we're going to send 20 young people. That's another exciting part of the program, is that this is a community engaged research project. We'll be training young people from Northwestern and also from ETHS to work as field poll workers, and they'll be going out to high traffic areas of Evanston, and they'll be pursuing what we call a every third person random sample. And so every third person that passes by, they will try to engage to fill out the sample. We'll also be doing a mail survey of the Fifth Ward and other sort of areas where we want to make sure that we have what we call an over sample to make sure that those voices are heard. We'll be partnering with NORC, the National Opinion Research Center, on that dimension of the survey. And so our ultimate goal is to get about 4,000 respondents from our 75,000. If we get anywhere between 500 that are sort of randomly distributed throughout the city's 9 wards, we can do a survey. But we really want it to be high quality, so we're going to try for 4,000. And I think we will be able to do it. I mean, you just imagine, young people from the, African American Studies and Sociology department at Northwestern, and high schoolers, working together. I think that they're going to be able to really generate a lot of interest. And then we're going to have community leaders like yourselves, hopefully helping us to stimulate engagement with the survey through public meetings. And I think that that will be another opportunity for us to really ramp up participation.
Councilmember Reed, you were next.
Thank you. What are the outcomes that we're anticipating from this? What data points are we looking for, and how do you think? So that's one, and then 2, how do you think this will inform this committee's work?
So, I work a lot as a consultant for governments, corporations, and nonprofits, and this is always a trick question, Councilman. So people say, well, what do you expect the data are going to tell us before we have the data? And so.
No, I'm not asking.
No. Okay. Hear me out. And so I can never really answer that question, but what I can promise you is that there will be surprises, right? And so the surprises will likely lead you in new directions, and they'll likely be things that you're very confident that that the survey will also verify. Why I joined up with this project when called to have my center participate is that I participated at a very early stage in this by providing some trainings on systemic racism to the council, and I attended the meetings, and just having sort of my name mentioned in that, I got probably half a dozen calls from academics in other universities that I know aren't necessarily eager to see the reparations project succeed, right? And so that raised my antenna, right? And so what I'm hoping is that we will provide a fair account. This is going to be an attitude survey. How is the program shaping the way people feel about Evanston, living here, the way they feel about engaging in the community, the way they feel about trust in each other, and what we call social capital. Those are the kinds of things that we're gonna measure with this first effort. And how do they feel about different proposals that are coming forward for what to do next? Those are the kinds of things I think could really inform your work. What I will know is that within academia, a lot of the folks that were calling me and calling Rob and I know that the default position is, that these kinds of programs breed resentment, right? That these kinds of programs are more trouble than they're worth, right? And so what I want to show is that, I don't think that's what I've been experiencing in Evanston. So, but we don't know what the data are going to bear out. But there will be lots of opportunities, I think, for you to think about impact and also think about what's coming next in terms of policy directives as you move forward to make new suggestions. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. So it seems as though it does. I wonder if it's kind of early in the program to do that, because we've only been able to help 16 folks, and if we're going out and we're saying, hey, what is the attitude about this? I think particularly in the Black community, there's going to be some undue resentment because we haven't been able to get up and running yet. But I do hope that, I'm looking forward to seeing the data.
And I just want to share, I had the same initial response, like, what can we really measure yet at this point? And understanding more the sentiments, the thinking. I'm hoping that we learn more about how it has positively informed and advanced Black inclusion, reduce anti-Black racism. I'm seeing just a broad narrative overview, more intentional support of Black businesses, more hiring and appointments of Black leaders, more Black voices be included. And if we can get a scientific study on if that is in fact the case, and how do we do more of that while we continue the work. But I agree, like, we can't measure, we have not solved the racial wealth gap, anti-Black racism, but if we can early on learn from what we are doing well, we can build on that and do better.
And again, it's not an evaluation study, so we made 16 people, so it's really just a sentiment study, as Robin is highlighting, and it is not too early to do that because people have opinions about it already. And so what a lot of people doing fishing expeditions in Evanston are eager to show is that what we call resentment scores on one side or another may have been boosted or may be rising as a result of the adoption of such a program. And so that's the first kind of test. And then the second kind of test is what's the vision that people have in our community for where we go from here?
And let me jump in before you, if you don't mind, Committee Member Claire. I should have done more to introduce Professor Tillery. And as he stated, he's been engaged since the earliest steps of our process. We really couldn't have a better, more appropriate partner. It was always my hope that Northwestern, the institution, would partner with, support the work, do their own repair, dig into their own history. But for now, we have the great social scientist, Professor Tillery, that was early in our stages of closed session training of the City Council as we were contemplating reparations and structural racism, as well as attending the earliest stakeholder meetings on reparations and observing. And so he's been observing our process since 2019, is a partnering institution. I believe that this report, my hope is that it will even hold his institution more accountable. I'm not putting you on the spot. I know you can't speak on
try to do that.
Okay, all right. But we all, I think, agree that are doing this work, that the institution, Northwestern, also has some responsibility to repair. And hopefully the study that comes out of there will even begin a process of holding them accountable. So I just wanted to add that additional bit of information. Can you tell us about your center?
Yeah, sure, but I just want to put an exclamation point on what you said. I mean, the reality is that there are other elite universities that are not partnering with the city or First Repair or the committee who have studies in the field. And so the choice to not do this would leave Evanston kind of vulnerable to the real interpretations of people who just want to extract data from you to have another academic publication which will fuel their ability to get tenure or higher salaries or some academic fame, whatever that is, right? And so we're coming to you because we don't want any of those things. Like, I don't need more papers. I am not interested in extracting data from you. I'm interested in doing something that will help our community where I live. And passing this ordinance has frankly boosted my sentiments about the city. So, it's not a matter of, if we don't get into the field and do something, there will be no reports. There are research reports coming because people are already in the field in Evanston, or they will be soon. And we need to have a partnership that matches that level of engagement. So the center is essentially, in 2016, I founded the Center for the Study of Diversity and Democracy because I was terrified at the direction the country was going in, and I founded the center to be a space for leadership training, polling, and executive education on diversity, equity, and inclusion. long story short, I'm a lynching survivor. When I integrated my neighborhood in New Jersey in 1979, some older white kids hung me in a tree. I was fortunate that the bus driver was on time and cut me down, and I survived. And so I became an anti-racist educator as a result of that experience. In 2016, I became really nervous that my little black son and black daughter are going to grow up in a country similar to the one that I grew up in. And so I founded the center to kind of direct Northwestern's resources to anti-racism and gender equity, LGBTQ plus equity projects. And so that's what we do. We run probably one of the more successful online executive education programs in the country. We run a very successful polling operation. And we also help partner with a friend of mine, Dave Davis, who runs neighborhood and community relations. We founded the Racial Equity Incubator Project, which has been helping some nonprofits in Chicago and Evanston.
Thank you.
Claire? Thank you so much for your work and for coming here today. When I heard about the research, my impression wasn't, this is too early. I was anticipating it as a baseline. This is going to be, the committee's work is a long-term project, so it's a long-term commitment that the city has made. And so I think it's very useful to see where we start out, and I'm hoping we'll get some information about where we could distribute more information or perhaps tweak some things here and there, what people's impressions are. So having stated that as the initial eyes with which I looked at this, I have a couple of questions. One is, as you develop this, do you anticipate that the study, that this might be a series, that at points in time that might be repeated along the way? Is that already anticipated as an initial point? And my second question is, I understand that this is a survey of the general community. Will your questions allow us to capture some of the differences? For example, will we be able to capture the separate impressions of, if we wanted to look at the impacted community,
Yes.
if we wanted to look at, and if we wanted to look at people, applicants and those that receive, we'll be able to separate that out?
Yeah, we'll have what we call full segmentation. So we'll know zip codes, race, gender, all kinds of demographic status questions. We'll know if the persons are on the list of potential legatees who are potential recipients. We'll know how long folks have lived in Evanston. We'll be able to do full sort of segmentation. And the great thing is, we're very much expecting that city leaders, including folks on this committee, will have input into the instrument. So I've been working for several days on designing a boilerplate template that looks like every study that my center runs, and I'm going to circulate it to Sheik and Robin, and I'm sure they'll share with you. And what we need from you is a markup, right? This question doesn't make sense. This is missing. Now, we won't be able to take all of your markups because we want people to fill the survey out. And so what we're looking for is an instrument of about 30 questions. That would take the average person probably 12 to 15 minutes to complete. And so, your question about follow-up is, once we get a great baseline, use the perfect word, baseline from this first study, we can go back in and we can shift questions around. Let's say I'm expecting that we find what we call a flat line, that this program has not boosted group resentments in Evanston. People are kind of positive about it, right? We find that's the big headline because all these other groups that are coming into the city and running studies now, the way for them to get famous, academic famous, is to find, racial resentment is up in Evanston because of this program, right? So if we find that that's not the case, then we can move to a bunch of other things, right? But the Evanston Research Collaborative on Reparations that the center is really establishing to partner with the city and civic leaders such as yourself, we do want to do other work. We would love to do a full evaluation study, Councilman, as you were talking about, but we need to get more recipients in the pipeline and new funding streams to do that. We also plan on helping to write what we call a policy history. So we expect you all to be interviewed at some point to talk about the work that you're doing so that we can have a real institutional history that's left behind. Because if this work is going to continue for, generation, folks will have to know like what was experimented with, what was tried, what were people debating. And so, yeah, this is just the first step in what I hope will be a multi-year project that will encompass other efforts to document this work.
And can I ask one more simple question? Does the survey speak to, are you evaluating the response to the entire reparations program as a whole, or a specific focus on the restoration housing program, which is, as you know, the first of what we anticipate to be a series?
Both.
Both.
Yeah. So we'll ask a generalized question. What is your sentiment about Evanston? Like I always tell people, like I would rather live in a city that has a racial redress program than a city that does not. So that's kind of the first framing, right? These kind of generalized sentiment. Then we'll get into, how do you feel about the particular targeting in this area? And then we'll get into what are some other areas that you think repair might be forthcoming, right? So we'll have, again, a real ability to have fine detail about what questions that will hopefully be instructive for your work going forward.
Thank you.
Any final questions for Professor Tillery? Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
So we will expect to hear back, see the survey, and have regular updates. As a committee, I think we should work on getting the information out there. I think as a committee, we should even be more present at community events, maybe with a table, having updates and information on what's going on with reparations. And we're hoping that you use your ward newsletters also to get the information out as well. And I should have really opened with some remarks. I just wanted to make sure we didn't take up too much of Professor Tillery's time. I want to give thanks to our committee members, Councilmember Burns and Reed, on the great work that they've been doing in community. And when we talk about reparations, usually folks have what their opinion of repair is or what they want to see for remedy. It could be housing, it could be cash. But we've learned as we've been educated on reparations that there are 5 components of reparations. And one that we're doing very well here in Evanston is satisfaction. Acknowledgements, memorials, markers, holidays, and so on. And so I just want to take this moment to acknowledge Councilmember Reed for your work in working with your colleagues on council to advance the Juneteenth holiday as an official holiday. Do you want to tell us more about what that means for the city?
Yeah, this past year, the city did not have Juneteenth off as a holiday, as most other employers and units of government did, and I reached out to then manager Gandersky to ask her about it, and now with our new city manager Luke Stowe, he has decided to move forward with, after a discussion, I believe at council, to move forward, or at some committee, to move forward with making Juneteenth an official holiday for city staff. So that means city staff will have that Monday off from work now.
Thank you for that. And thank you to Manager Stowe and the City Council and all involved in supporting it. And thank you to Councilmember Burns for getting the support to acquire the parcel of land that is in our ward, the 5th Ward, and also for the important acknowledgement and honorary street naming of Joanne Avery. So do you want to tell us a little bit more about what happened?
Both?
Quickly, yeah.
Quickly. So Joanne Avery, many of the folks here today probably know Joanne, 40 plus years working with youth and seniors here in Evanston, mostly at Family Focus, but had a brief stint at YLU. And my remarks were pretty simple. Just it says a lot for somebody for 40 years to remain committed not only to one organization, but to the community and the neighborhood it serves. And so we honored her with one of the highest honors the city can do, which is to honorary street naming, which is, well, it's on Simpson between Dewey and Darrell. And so we did that this past weekend. And then on the affordable housing, again, people in here, I tell people all the time, I'm housing insecure. I go in and out of housing insecure depending on the contracts that I have, because I'm a consultant. And so we're all feeling it. And in a landlocked city like Evanston, in a desirable city like Evanston, where there's not a corner of Evanston where someone does not want to live, which is very different from other places in our Chicago metropolitan area. There's not a piece of land here that someone is not interested in buying, and that raises the cost of housing here. And so one of the most important things that I'm committed to working on is getting site control. You hear me say that over and over and over again, where there's opportunities. Jackson and Emerson was a wonderful opportunity for us, just over an acre of land that was previously naturally occurring affordable housing, about 15 units. We have the ability now to double that on a site that would have otherwise flipped to market rate housing, which is unaffordable for most people in Evanston. And so really excited about that, and there'll be more information to come.
Thank you. Thank you for your hard work. And so these are things I don't want us to take for granted, and how saying yes to reparations is pushing other areas. A Fifth Ward school is coming. We have institutions that have included repair as part of their values, like the Evanston Community Foundation. And there's a lot of good work that's happening. So I want to take time every meeting and acknowledge those wins, because they are important. I also want to make an announcement of a invitation to partner with us as part of their centennial celebration, and in accordance to their motto of servants of all. The Alpha Mu chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated and its centennial co-chair, Michael Blake, conveyed their interest in a reparations town hall and also a physical site restoration on Saturday, October 22nd. And so what they will be here for their centennial, and they are looking to do a service project that will impact Black Evanston. And so that will have to be determined. They contacted us to see how they might be able to support the work that we're doing on reparations. They want to amplify the work of reparations. And so more to come on that. We just wanted to let the committee and the community know that the Evanston, Chicago chapter of Alpha Fraternity is in support and will be here during their centennial to actively show support. Okay, next on our agenda, we have for discussion item 4A. I'm going to invite Paul Zamnazak from Economic Development to give us a report and discussion. The reason why Paul is here is when we made this introduction in 2019, we did it expecting to have now today 3 dispensaries and operating with revenue from 3 dispensaries. We have 1 dispensary. And so that has us under projected funding and not able to disperse as much as we had hoped for. So an explanation on what we should expect from the state, the city, revenue, whatever you can share with us would be great, because we're in the discussions now of finding additional revenue streams, and to have an accurate projection on cannabis sales tax is going to be helpful. Thank you.
Great. Excuse me. Thank you. I'm honored to be able to present today to this. I feel like, man, the work you're doing is incredible, and I don't know how I can live up to what you're working on. I'm just honored to be here. So thank you, Chair Simmons. And I'll start off with the memo itself and the background on the latest announcement from the state. The state issued in our region around 119 licenses, conditional licenses, that are geared toward minority-owned dispensaries. With the encouragement of Councilmember Burns, we did a proactive outreach to each of those licensees. Very difficult to figure out who these individuals are. We're able to find the entities, find the law firms that represent them, and then we drafted a letter. It's in the packet. Mayor Biss signed it, and very kind of promotional piece, along with the map, the zoning map of Evanston, where it shows where dispensaries can go, along with a listing of available properties that match up with those available areas. So, as I mentioned in the memo, we received one callback within a few days of sending that out from a firm, from a broker in California. So there is definitely interest. We have to do more proactive outreach to continue to push. I appreciate what you said. Are you going by Chairperson Simmons in this meeting? Is that the proper title? I appreciate what you said about trying to understand the market for dispensaries. At some point it will be saturated, right? So you have your downtown dispensary, which the state kind of has this rule of a 1,500 foot boundary around it. So that particular Zen Leaf basically owns the downtown as it relates to dispensaries. And that's the prime location. However, I don't have all the details, but I understand under this new conditional licensing process that these firms can open within that 1,500 foot boundary to give them an opportunity to also operate in the downtown. So, that's the premium location. And then if you kind of divide the community into, north, middle, south, makes sense. You might have one in the main dumpster area, you might have one on Howard Street or Main, McCormick, somewhere where there's more, high-speed traffic where people can actually get there quickly and conveniently. So I think 3 would be the max. I'm not an expert in locating cannabis dispensaries, but at some point it would become saturated. So you're not going to have one in every corner. There's going to be a limit to how much is spent, and pulling visitors in from the west has always been a challenge. I don't have updates on revenue. I think there's, frankly, some, I would need Corporation Counsel's advice on this, but there's some limitations to what we can share from revenues.
Well, we are well informed.
I want to be able to dive into that, but I'm going to stop there because I have limited information. I just want you to know that we are doing an active, just as an FYI, in the economic development profession, you spend most of your time trying to retain businesses. If you can retain the businesses that are in your community, the spaces stay full, you expand revenues, et cetera, et cetera. It's a really low percentage task to go out and try to attract businesses, but this is the type of thing where we have to be very proactive and spend a lot of time on. So we're going to make this a priority in our group. But I'll open it up for questions, limited answers.
Yeah, I just, so first there was a holdup with the state and the licenses and,
Yes.
just really, I think what is most relevant to our discussion is how far are we on a timeline of another dispensary? And it sounds like there's some interest. No one's in application state
Correct.
or permit state or anything like that.
No, I appreciate that question. So I would say, if not weekly, it's every couple of weeks I get a call from somebody who's seeking some location for it. So that's a conversation I have. I share with them the map. I share with them the information, the spaces that are available. I think it's just a matter of time. Remember also we went through a very difficult time with the pandemic. People are not making big decisions like that. So it's been slow. And then you're hearing about all these issues with staffing. We're struggling at the local municipal level. Imagine what's happening at the state, which is already operating slowly, right? So, yeah, it's disappointing that we're not moving more rapidly on this.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee?
I guess just a statement. I definitely would, the name of the game for this is being proactive for cannabis companies. As someone that has a craft grow license and trying my best to locate on the south side of Chicago, it has been really difficult. This is a highly regulated industry, and I think the communities that do adequate outreach to people to let them know, look, this is a welcoming space, that the council is supportive, and because this is going to be a special use process for whoever is interested in locating in Evanston. I think that's the way
Yes.
yeah. So absolutely proactive, welcoming, council will support this, that kind of thing. And so whatever I can do to continue to support your efforts, just let me know.
I think if I could respond to that, I need all of your help because again, I'm not an expert. We have so many additional tasks we're working on, but this is a priority. So to the extent that you have some expertise in this, I could use your help. Appreciate that.
Thank you. Councilmember Reed?
Yeah, I think in order to make this Evanston a community where dispensaries want to locate, I think we have to truly make our city a welcoming city, and that means the outreach. And I really appreciate Councilmember Burns and Economic Development for leading on doing that proactive outreach, but also, you know, for Evanston to be a welcoming place for, you know, right now, if someone went to the dispensary downtown that's a few blocks away and wanted to come here and pay their water bill with that cannabis in their backpack, that person could be arrested here in Evanston. So, and not even, I'm not saying they took it out and they were smoking it here in the building, it's just having possession of it inside of a city building, walking through a city park, walking along the lakefront with a cannabis container is an arrestable and ticketable offense in Evanston. And so I think we have to, across the board, make this a more welcoming space. And I think that will lend itself to more dispensaries, more people who consume wanting to come to a place like Evanston to purchase it and move around our city without the threat of arrest.
Committee Member Claire?
So if I can just respond that at Evanston, our law enforcement, so you know those are Evanston institutions, but so the rules and so of the dispensary are informed not only by our municipal ordinances, but also constrained by Illinois law and so forth. So there are some limitations on, you know, on some of the things that you're talking about.
Yep.
I think there are some limitations by Illinois law. For example, the information that the dispensaries give when they're, you know, once things are purchased, etc. So there are some, we have to always make sure that we're making people informed, because yeah, there's our municipal law here, but we also have our state and federal law. So I think it is important when people leave the dispensary that they're aware that they can't get on the plane with it and so forth, that they're aware of those things. And so I hear what you're saying, and there's some space for different things that can be done as a municipality. But we do have to remain aware of those three levels.
Any other comments?
I have a question. Can I ask a question?
If you could at public comment, save it for us. Thank you. Anything else to add?
Well, thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And so next we have for discussion B, and it's actually for action. And I mentioned some time ago us opening our meetings with an ancestral acknowledgement. We see it often for the indigenous land acknowledgements, but I was inspired by a Reparations Committee meeting in San Francisco actually that opened with an ancestral acknowledgement. And I think that one thing that's great about being the first is there are many that will come after us and do more and differently, and we can learn from and be informed from their work. And many of us in community, including Donna and others that are here in the audience, participate in learning from other communities. And Claire has taken on the task of drafting our ancestral acknowledgement, and I wanted to open up for discussion. Actually, I want to move it. Claire, would you like to move introduction?
Yes. I move introduction. Sorry. I move introduction of discussion for the ancestral acknowledgement that was included in the packet for review.
Adoption, second.
Okay. And so if we want to discuss it, if we want to first have a discussion on our thinking about opening in this way, I think centering the meeting, reminding us why we're here, acknowledging our ancestors for their ultimate sacrifices, and us being here today is because of so many that began this work, including living legends that are still in Evanston that we're building on their work, like Mr. Bennett Johnson, who I see in the audience. But I think it is important that we acknowledge our ancestors. We come into the space prepared to do the work, and this is a way that we could do so. I was thinking that every meeting we rotate who reads it, starting with Mr. Sutton as our elder, and everyone on the committee reading it over the course of our meetings. And if there's any discussion, now would be the time. Or you take some time to read it.
Some time to review
Yeah.
it, yeah.
Okay, we'll do that.
I'm fine moving forward with this. Thank you, Claire, for drafting this.
Awesome. I think Councilmember Burns is still reading.
No, I'm good.
You're good? Okay. I've given my feedback already, and I'm comfortable, very proud of the draft, and I think that if there's no other feedback, we could just have it copy edited and adopt it. So we will open our meetings reading this, starting with Mr. Sutton. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, perfect, thank you. Moving forward with that. Next, we have item C is going to be request for qualifications, restorative housing program administration. This is for discussion. This is important because we launched into disbursement and a process with a familiar partner in, what is SEPA? Community Partners for Affordable Housing, yes, with a familiar partner that had familiar working relationships with the city, our affordable housing department, other similar programs, and now we are moving forward with a competitive process so that we can have other options for those that partner with us in the administration of this program. And we've all discussed that ideally we would like to have a Black organization, a Black-led organization, and there are options out there. And so we hope that this RFQ will invite those and that we have better options to choose from. And so this is for discussion now.
I move discussion.
Thank you.
I'll start off. I support the RFQ, so I appreciate staff and the chair for getting this on the agenda. I think we should move forward and get it out there and get the responses. It's very straightforward. I appreciate the work that everybody's led on this.
Thank you. It's, and I'm all for getting it out there right away because we made a very important vote last meeting to disperse as we receive our reparations funding. And I'll tell you, our elder community is excited about that. And they read it. I don't know who reported, maybe the roundtable, maybe others. But the feedback that I've heard to pass along appreciation to this committee for moving forward with the approval of, I believe it's a $3.4 million or whatever that sum is to fund the ancestors, has been ongoing since we made that vote. And so the sooner we can get this in place, the sooner we can operate and model everything, partnering with Black organizations, keeping Black dollars within Black communities, having a value add to the reparations work that we're doing. Is there any other discussion?
Yeah, I think it's in the packet. Oh, I'm sorry, I should be recognized for my question.
Yes.
So this is for Tashik. I think you did see it in the, put in the packet, but I don't see it. Or maybe it was in the earlier email, when you sent it for review, which I appreciate because give it some time to think about it. What is the time frame for the? Has there been a set time frame established? Okay, thank you.
So I do need to move forward the decision from this committee.
Yeah.
So this was just to get feedback.
On the
I'll work
terms.
with purchasing on the timeline, but I could work with them to get it out there as soon as possible.
Perfect.
Chair, I just want to highlight when we get to items for communication after that, particularly on the vote that was taken at the last meeting, I just want to make, I was unable to be here that last meeting. I want to make a few brief comments about the few tweaks we might need to make to that vote.
Okay. All right. Is there any other discussion on the RFQ? If not, then Tashik, thank you for moving forward. Perfect. And so item D is extremely important. And my last check, since we began our application process, we have lost 6 ancestors. Is it 6 now, Tashik?
Yes.
We have lost 6 ancestors that have transitioned since we've started this process. And so we need to have a very serious discussion about how do we honor the family, being that the goals for this is to, repair intergenerationally, build intergenerational wealth. And we need to discuss how we move forward with that. It is for discussion. I move for discussion. Is there a second? Okay, perfect. And so I want to open that up for discussion. I fully support, and we'll need, legal's direction on this. How do we retroactively, how do we go back and request a heir, or, the language, how do you identify in the event of my transition? I would like to assign this benefit to X person. So we have that to solve for, and then we have the 6 that have moved on. And so I don't know the status of those 6, if they are calling to inquire or if we've just been made aware. That, of course, would be way more complicated if there's multiple descendants and so on. So if you could just give us some direction on that.
Sure. Good morning, members of the Reparations Committee, Chair Simmons, Nicholas Cummings, Corporation Counsel. So just want to go back because previously, the City Manager's Office as well as Audrey Thompson were working with recipients to provide supplementary services and other opportunities to help with the benefit. One of those things that I would now suggest that we try and encourage people to do is estate planning. We are well aware that Black and brown folks generally are not really well into estate planning. And to be frank, we often don't have the wealth to plan for in terms of an estate. But in this particular situation, it can be very complex if you have multiple heirs, for example. Having a will could make it an issue. If the city has already sort of identified and targeted someone for an award and they passed before they were able to receive it, technically it is a part of their estate. And if they pass without a will, that estate goes to court and has to be fettered out by a circuit court judge in probate, which the city could deposit the funds with the court and say this is part of that estate for the court to determine how to distribute that. So then it, I'm not saying it washes the city's hands of it completely. However, it is a process at which the city could say this is also part of the estate if we're made aware of it, in order to provide that to the court, and it's up to the court then to identify heirs, etc., and not the city to try and find those folks. If they do have a will, and it's likely that that will was drafted prior to them receiving this particular benefit, that makes it even more complicated. And then we can try and work with the family in that respect. Hopefully it doesn't result in any sort of familial infighting, which results in probate court, which is always possible. But those are unfortunately not great options, is working with the court system in order to try and provide the benefits to the descendants.
So even if we, and all of that I understood, but question about if we do moving forward and going back, have them identify someone, does it still is it subject to probate, even if they identify someone on our application?
Not if they predetermine who that person is.
Okay.
No.
And, okay.
At that point, it becomes similar to any sort of beneficiary, like a retirement account, life insurance benefit, if you identify a beneficiary, it's sort of, I don't want to say it supersedes any other document, but it's different. It's separate from even like a will or anything like that.
Yeah, and so I think that was, we're learning, and I think we're learning from that. I would love for us to go back to our, 600 total, not just the ancestors, but even the descendants, both.
Oh, for the ancestors, it's 130.
Right, but both the ancestors, I think the descendants too. So they are subject to death as well. So I think that we should go back and offer that option to identify an heir, so that there isn't this debate in the event of transition. And then, have you given us clear direction on the other the six that are in question?
I have not.
Okay, all right,
Not yet.
okay, perfect. Is there any other discussion? Did you have more to say?
Thank you.
Okay.
I'm concerned that we don't see this as an ex post facto law. That we are making laws now to remedy something that was in the past. I think the idea of adding the beneficiary is very important. But I'm also, our credibility, as I mentioned, Robin, is in question now as members. These people qualify for distribution, and now there's no way that a family member or the person who's designated can receive this disbursement. That's the concern I've been hearing from all over the community. And I had to be careful because I'm in one of the six. So I have to watch my statements at this point. But I'm the sole heir of my brother, so that's no question there. There's no family involved. But I think we should identify, in case of something that my son, daughter, or someone identified will be notified and then be able to collect.
So I'm hearing direction move forward with a process to go back and,
Add a beneficiary upon death.
yeah,
Inquire
Exactly.
about and ask them to add a beneficiary upon death.
I
right,
have to work with legal on drafting a
okay,
document to set out.
okay, okay. All right, thank you. Perfect. Moving on, we have yes.
Very quickly, before we move on, and that undoubtedly, that was a really important discussion, but I also would like to propose, it's not on the agenda, that the committee do have some acknowledgement, some condolence, some that we send, and that you set a standard for that we will send out
Yes.
to the recipients, and to propose, be that at the very least a card, but perhaps something else as
Absolutely.
well.
Yes. Thank you. Moving on, so we could, respect everyone's time for consideration. We really are due for another town hall. We have not had one in a while. There's additional information to share. There's updates on our program. More to talk about our vision, more partners to bring in to discuss and inform us, a place of education. We have proposed some dates. And the location is up for discussion as well. I really appreciate taking these town halls into community spaces. Previously, in-person town halls have been at First Church of God Christian Life Center. Dr. Neighbors at Second Baptist is welcoming us at his church, and we know that he's played a lead role as a community member, a stakeholder, a faith leader, and done a lot to mobilize our ally community. So I just want to put that up for discussion as well. And if the committee could check their calendars to see if these dates work, October 22nd is the preferred date. But if you can check, excuse me. October 22nd is a preferred date.
It's not on here.
It's not on here, it's just the 21st.
Oh, I edited on my thing. It's 22nd. Yeah, I'm sorry. So this should be the 22nd, Saturday the 22nd. That's a preferred date, but if that doesn't work, these are alternate dates.
The 22nd is,
It's the only Saturday or something that makes it.
yeah.
Okay, perfect.
So
Yes.
let me just point out, doesn't that Saturday, would we then come together with the invitation, isn't that we're
Saturday,
at the
yeah.
Alphas, the day that the Alphas
It would
want to
be-
do that? So we
we
would
would
come together and do
somehow do it
something jointly?
collaboratively.
Oh, that sounds great.
Yeah,
That
and
sounds fabulous.
Yeah.
Okay.
so they're discussing, the possibility of a breakfast and some other things to add on to it, as well as a service project.
That sounds really wonderful.
Okay,
Okay.
and so I'll propose some speakers to the committee, and we'll come up with an agenda and move forward with that. And we have, for communications, I know Councilmember Reed has some communications. If you want to go first?
I think the donations report can go, and then I think it'll segue into
Perfect,
what
thank you.
Yeah, so as of August 30th, the city received 35,600. Can't hear you. So as of August 30th, the city received $35,643 in donations to
Thank you.
Reparations Fund. Yeah.
Thank you.
We did have one local business that informed me that they're gonna be mailing a check to the city for their donations. So I haven't received that yet.
Okay, and so I'll name it unless there's an additional one. Soul and Smoke.
Yes.
Soul and Smoke is a Fifth Ward business known in the nation for having some of the best barbecue on Payne Street. And they have contributed X amount of dollars, we don't know what that is, but they have contributed a portion of their sales to the Reparations Fund here at the City of Evanston. So thank you to Soul and Smoke for what you are doing and how you have supported the work of the Reparations Committee. Another thing that has come up is the low amount of contributions to our Reparations Fund. We have an additional reparations fund in this community, which is held at the Evanston Community Foundation, and it will be governed and directed by the Reparations Stakeholder Authority of Evanston. So don't be discouraged that there isn't robust engagement from our community. The Evanston Community Fund, I believe, should be close to $300,000 now or so, but we would need to get an official report, yes. Saul Anderson of the Evanston Community Foundation is here with us, so feel free to talk to Saul after the meeting. But know that there is great activity happening with the foundation, embracing repair as a value. The Reparations Stakeholder Authority of Evanston is still forming and will begin engagement with community sometime this year. Yes.
Thank you. I would like to slightly reconsider our vote at the last meeting, and just to add in a piece where I think our chair and member McFarland were at a recent city council meeting where we discussed that the city does have the ability to transfer general fund surplus money into the reparations fund. Our CFO, our interim corporation counsel at the time, both very clearly indicated that that was a possibility. And so I think to hasten the pace of ensuring that we're getting funds to folks, I think we should really, this committee should push to make that contribution. But also, if we are releasing funds, $25,000 at a time, as it comes in, we've violated our obligation to not disclose how much money is coming in from the dispensary. I mean, if we're saying every time we get 25,000, we're issuing funds, then you can very clearly see, all right, well, the dispensary is making this much money by tracking how many recipients we've given reparations to at a single time. And so if we were to, for example, float the money from the general fund and say, hey, every quarter we want to provide money to 4 reparations recipients, and the city makes the transfer every quarter $100,000 regardless of how much money is in the reparations fund or not, that would be a way to create to make it less clear exactly how much we're getting from our one dispensary. I would suggest, again, we have the money. This is a major value of the city. I think particularly as Professor Tillery and the team are looking into what folks think about reparations, I think the city making a real contribution to reparations now would give us better data on, how people are feeling about it, and whether people are really prepared to throw down and give up some money for this. And so, I would like to see us make at least that, I'd like to see 5 million, but I'd like to see us do at least the additional 2-point-something million that would, let us take care of the ancestor group, and recommend that to council. I think we've got, as of our last quarterly report, it ebbs and flows, but as of our mid-year report, we had $47 million in the bank. We have a minimum general fund reserve balance standard of 16.66%, which equals $19.1 million. So we got 47 million in the bank. We want to have at least 19 million in the bank. Our CFO on numerous occasions has said that he anticipates that we'll end the year with 35 million in the bank. Again, well over that 19.1 million that we want. We have the money. If this is a real commitment that we have to reparations, I think we should do one of those two. I think we can't do the 25,000 at a time because it would make clear how much the dispensary is given. I think we should at least do 100,000 a quarter from the general fund, or truly make a real substantial commitment of about that $3.6 million.
Thank you. Let's put it on the agenda for our next meeting.
Thank you.
All right. And with that, I think we have completed our other than public comment. Yes. So, do we have folks signed up for public comment? Thank you.
Sorry, we just need to go back just as a point of housekeeping to formally accept the donations report. So I move that we accept the
I
donations.
second it.
So moved.
Thank you. All right, we have 4 signed up for public comment. This is great. Saul, I wish I would have known you were on here for public comment. I would have.
No, that was a mistake. I thought it was just a sign.
Oh, you're not, okay. Okay. But we want to hear from you, so expect a formal invitation at a future meeting. Okay. Okay. No problem. Okay, wait, you're not on here. Let me add you 1 second for the record. All right, so happy that you're here. Please.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. This is Indona. So I have one really quick question that someone posed in the little group Our Village. What is holding up the licenses for the additional dispensaries? Is it the city of Evanston or is it the state that's causing there not to be any licenses distributed? And also, is there some type of red tape that is preventing people from opening dispensaries in Evanston? That's, those are 2 questions posed by someone else. And then my other question is, as far as other services, when are we going to have the conversation about the other steps beyond the housing? Because I know that was something that was discussed at a couple of meetings ago. And people are just wondering, when are we going to start having those conversations?
Thank you. Ms. Tina Payton.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Okay, so number 1, you need to have your meetings hybrid. I have asked that several times before. You're discussing people who are seniors and ancestors, and some of them can't make the meeting. And they need to be able to participate, not just look at YouTube, but maybe they have questions too. And you also have, with the COVID, immune compromised people like myself. I missed several meetings because I was ill and I wanted to participate as well. So I very much encourage that you have a hybrid meeting for people to participate. Also, of course, I advocate for cash payment. I heard Attorney Cummings at a meeting tell Mr. Sutton that he found a way for cash payment. So I would be interested in hearing more from Attorney Cummings about the cash payment. Also, you said that the first $400,000 was going to the housing program, and I think we need to discuss about future money as just presented. You said that the $400,000 was going to the housing program, and it was only $400,000. We should discuss the next steps, as Indona just said. So you need to take the legal process of doing this. Also, if for the next phase, you need to have another application process, especially if you're talking about another 400,000 and up to the 10 million. Because all the people that are signed up or not signed up, many ancestors, and you have a couple that you awarded that were picked, and they don't have a home, and they're not gonna buy a home at 70 or 80 years old, and probably won't get approved for a home. So you need to make next steps in order to get these people and additional people qualified for other things than the home. Income and expenses, I'm sorry that I did not look at the website beforehand, but how are you spending the money? So if you have town halls, or you gave money to have a dinner, was that taken from the reparations money? Or where is this money going? Where is the money being spent? I believe that SEPA and other non-for-profits should not be included in this reparations. The money should be held in an interest-bearing account and should be accounted for appropriately. Once again, if you do not take these steps, it will be discrimination on discrimination. Thank you.
Thank you. Dee Griffin?
I'm sorry.
Oh, you just signing in? Glad you're here, Dee. Vanessa Johnson McCoy.
Hi, everybody. Yes,
Good
Vanessa
morning.
A. Johnson McCoy, of course. Thank you for your work, as always. I have about 3 things, real quick. The first one is on the what was voted to have on October 22nd, the Reparations Town Hall. On the agenda, it says the location is the Fleetwood Gymnasium. Then I think you might have mentioned a church as an option. So
We'll bring final details.
Okay, excellent. And then second is with regard to the letters that we received confirming that we were eligible as an ancestor, or no, not the ancestor, the direct descendants. So I'm hearing that there was some confusion by some. Mine was very clear because I've attended all the meetings, but there was some confusion by some. And so will, like the 3 banks that have these special wonderful programs, would they be like maybe at the town hall or something upcoming where they can explain, because some people thought they got the letter, and ooh, that means I'm getting the money, so they start calling the banks, and I'm suggesting that you do more for clarification around, and have the banks come and say what they're offering, and even if you didn't get the money yet, you could still take advantage of these programs, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, and then the last thing, it's just as you discussed the identifying a beneficiary, since the ancestors are the only ones that can transfer the money, it might look a little different for us who are direct descendants on the whole beneficiary thing, since we're not able to transfer the money. So those are my 3 items. Thanks again for your work.
Thank you, Vanessa. Do we have anyone else here? Brenda? Oh, Mr. Johnson, let me add you.
No, I'm with Saul.
You're Saul? Oh, I thought, okay, I thought Brenda was Saul, okay.
Saul was 30 years.
The main reason I'm here is that I have what I call the freedom plan, which I think you're familiar with. And I'd like to discuss it with the group at some time, because it's more comprehensive than just a housing plan. Carmen, did you get it? Okay. The other thing I want to say is that one of the problems with raising money is that nobody knows about the group.
Right.
You think that everybody knows, but it's really not that well known. I think you should put together a PR campaign to do that. The other one is that in the year 1999 or 2000, we had a conference at Northwestern that Heisel Taylor called on reparation. And a lot of very well-qualified people were there. And I think you ought to get that information, because I think it would help inform the group here. Finally, when you talk about how to handle the reparations fund, that when people die, we should require people to have a trust, a will, or something required, so that there will be no confusion about it. That's what I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Or Bennett, rather. Thank you, Bennett. Saul, yes. Okay, on that, thank you all. As you know, Ms. Greer? Okay, yes.
Good morning, everyone.
Good
My
morning.
name is Brenda Greer, and I applaud you all for this reparations program, because I know that it has been a challenge and it will continue to be. But in 4 months, I will be 74 years old. I know that I am not going to be able to buy a home. I don't have a home to have repairs done to, and nor can I pay off a mortgage. So I do hope, and Carlos, I am sorry you still have my blessings regarding your brother that passed on, and then any family members that are here that have lost loved ones. I was close to Cicely's mother. I knew her, and she was one of the ones also that passed on, I know. But I do hope that if you go back to the table and negotiate legally regarding the ancestors for those who have passed on, that you will also consider those who will be entitled to the $25,000 that, in my case, will not be able to use it. I can't pass it on because I don't have anyone living in the household, if that is one of the conditions. I would like also to use it myself some type of way. So I do hope that there can be some legal procedures taken to consider also those who qualify that won't be able to use it in regards to the rules that are set up in regulations already. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your comment. And those if it's your first meeting, our public comment, we don't have engagement, we're not able to respond, but I will say this in closing so that it is clear. Our reparations fund is used for repair. It's not used for fees. The funding for the dinner was administrative fees or some other line item, so that there is no confusion there, and that will not change unless there is an action, and we have not had support of that on this committee. And we will make sure that we include responses to the questions at public comment in our future agenda or in future remarks. May I have a motion to adjourn?
No further business?
No further business?
You can adjourn.
All right, thank you. Meeting is adjourned.